All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new video. It's been a while since we've had a chat about addiction and alcoholism and breaking addictions and the recovery process. So we're going to touch upon that in this video. It's not going to be too long. I do want to say, however, that I am in the midst of a brand new project on addiction recovery, especially alcoholism. So that's going to be a lengthy volume. I'm going to probably have it span over 4 hours long. It's going to have a lot of new content in it, and it's going to have some of my old content in it. And the goal of putting together something that's so long is to hopefully provide people who are going through, the recovery process, something to watch, something that can bring them some hope. Because I know how terrifying the recovery process is, and oftentimes people feel alone. And, for people like me, when I went through my withdrawals from alcohol, I had severe hallucinations. I had a lot of trauma going on because I went through the DTs, also known as delirium tremens. I had auditory hallucinations, visual hallucinations, tactile hallucinations. And even though I was surrounded by family at the time, I felt like I was going into the pits of hell. And I want to give people who are going through the recovery process, regardless of how extreme and terrifying or how mild it may be, I want to give you something so that you can not feel so alone, something to watch, something to kill some time with, because let me tell you, killing time when you're recovering from a drug addiction or a alcohol addiction, whatever it is, can be quite terrifying. So having something that can provide you with some hope and some light at the end of the tunnel. That's the goal of this long project. Chances are it's going to be over 7 hours long. So keep an eye out for that. I was going to try to publish that within the next 14 days or so, but it's probably going to take a little bit longer. My time is, I don't have as much free time anymore as I used to. And because of that, I'm doing my best to post every day now on YouTube. But some of these more intricate projects, I like to really, really take my time with things regarding alcoholism and addiction recovery because I know what it's like to go through that, and I really want to put out some good quality content. So let's just begin, ladies and gentlemen. We'll do kind of a little rant on addiction. Addiction can kill you. It can end your life. It can snuff out your candle before you even finished what you came here to do. You need to wake up. You need to realize that the more you mess around with dangerous substances, such as alcohol, the less of a chance you're going to have for a second chance. Now, I was the type of individual when I was going through my alcoholism days where I asked for a second chance about 10,000 times. And every time I asked for that second chance and I was given that opportunity to change, every time I was given that opportunity and I squandered it, I was bitch slapped a little bit harder the next time that life was trying to teach me a lesson. So oftentimes people who are struggling with addiction, ladies and gentlemen, they're given multiple second chances by the forces that govern this dimension. And if you don't listen, the tough love is a little bit tougher each time. Now, I don't want to see you fall into a situation where your lesson is jail. I don't want to see you fall into a situation where you accidentally harm yourself, destroy your liver, destroy your lungs if you're a cigarette smoker. Addictions are so incredibly stupid. I'm not ashamed of myself for falling into the hole of addiction, but my God, did I waste a lot of time in my life, and I destroyed a lot of my health. We live in a world where the stress can be perceived as being so intense. Our lives can be so absolutely stressful where we actually think that it's justifiable to destroy our health to make ourselves feel a little bit more comfortable. So people who smoke cigarettes, oftentimes they smoke not only because they've gotten addicted to it, but because it makes them feel good. It makes them feel grounded. It makes them feel secure. Meanwhile, it's killing you. So these things are great con jobs against ourselves. We play tricks on ourselves. And these tricks that we play on ourselves kill people every single goddamn day. I've had people in my family, people that are close to me, have friends that were killed by drunk drivers. I know people who have gotten lung cancer and died from it, had breathing problems, all because addiction is such a strange thing. And the more I think about it, it's like, how did I ever even fall into that pattern? It really makes me second guess my decision-making abilities here in this matrix. And I'm glad for that, because I'm a lot more critical nowadays that I'm more mature as to what I put my time into. So it's like anytime something new comes along, whether it be, maybe it's like I don't even know how to express it, ladies and gentlemen, but anytime something new comes along that kind of tries to captivate my attention, I really, really scrutinize it mentally, and I really look at whether or not this is something that's going to benefit me. Because a lot of these things out here, whether it be television or cigarette smoking or constantly seeking entertainment, these things become addictive vices, and they chew up your time in a very non-beneficial way. We were put here to be creative, ladies and gentlemen. We were put here to create change in the world. We were not put here to sit in front of televisions and smoke cigarettes and drink alcohol all day and inject drugs into our veins. We were not put here to kill ourselves. We live in a very backwards world, and I don't want to see you get screwed by the absolute insanity here in this world, ladies and gentlemen. A world where you can go drive to a gas station and find about 50 different cigarettes to purchase. A world where you can drive to the goddamn gas station, excuse my language, and find multiple different varieties of alcohol. The place where you're supposed to come and be a responsible driver, you can buy your booze, get in the car and open it and drink. I mean, what the hell? We live in a world where the wrong things are legal and the things that are beneficial are oftentimes illegal. So we live in a world, ladies and gentlemen, where metaphorically speaking, up is down, down is up, left is right, right is left. I mean, what the hell is going on here? So addiction can destroy your life. It can snuff out your candle short, like I said earlier, and it can lead you down a path where your decision-making process is not, saturated in rationality. And when you make bad decisions, when you're intoxicated or when you're in the haze of addiction, you can do things that you can never crawl yourself out of. So I know people who have been addicted to drugs and because of that developed STDs because of the decision-making process, their lack of decision-making. They were just absolutely, drug-addled and making backwards decisions. You can't go back now and reverse that. I know people who have gotten themselves into situations where they were killed because of drugs. So I don't want to see people fall into that rut. I want to see people uplifted and, health. And I know so many people, they're so concerned about their health. Oh, I want to be healthy. I want to do this. But they smoke cigarettes. And I try to sympathize with people nowadays, ladies and gentlemen, because I was there at one point. But it's getting so stupid to see these adults just going through the motions and just finding every excuse in the book not to change their lives. And I was one of them. I am not judging. I'm judging myself by saying this because I can look back mentally. I have a very good memory recall and see all the times I walked in to a gas station or a 7-Eleven and this soft voice inside of my heart said, just turn around, motherfucker. What are you doing? Just turn around. You're being dumb. I neglected so many of the spiritual warning signs. You see, ladies and gentlemen, every time you go in to a gas station or a booze store, wherever you get your fix, and there's that momentary lapse of reason, there's that momentary kind of soft, intuitive voice that comes into your heart. You all know what I'm talking about. If you're an addict, chances are you know what I'm talking about. The minute you swing open that liquor store door, and you just have this sense of something bigger than you come through you and say, turn around. It may not be, it's oftentimes just something you feel. You feel like you're in the wrong place, you're doing the wrong thing. Every time you don't listen to that, it leads to a consequence. And I know this firsthand. I look back at all the times I went into a 7-Eleven and bought cigarettes for whatever ridiculous price they were in California at the time, $7, $8, what the hell? I look back and I think of how many hundreds of dollars I wasted on things that killed me. I paid money to accelerate my premature death. I paid money, ladies and gentlemen, and chances are you are currently doing it as well, or you have, to accelerate your premature death. It is so weird. There's something moving through my mind right now. I'm trying to put it into words, but I just can't. It's like right on the grasp of my ability to channel it and funnel it into words. It's like this huge, it's like a curse, ladies and gentlemen. This world almost has a curse on it because 9 out of 10 times people find destructive vices to deal with reality. That's how much we have to seek, we have to feel numbed. Most of us don't really feel anything anymore. We numb it all. We numb all the pain of reality. We numb the intensity of this dimension. We numb our stressful lives with things that kill ourselves slowly, or sometimes even quicker. Now, I don't have as much of a vendetta with tobacco and things like that as I do with alcohol, because usually with tobacco, it's a long, slow death. You know, I've never actually heard of someone like killing themselves one night from smoking a pack of cigarettes. Tobacco, generally speaking, is much more gentle than alcohol. Alcohol is a poison. Alcohol can make the most noble people and turn them into absolute fools that make decisions that get them locked up for the rest of their lives. This is a dangerous ass substance. The fact that this stuff is illegal blows my mind. Now, I've said it in previous videos and I'll say it again. I don't think that alcohol should be illegal. I like to think that we could be intelligent, enlightened humans that could have the alcohol be available for purchase, but we're smart enough not to buy it. I don't think the way to get people to stop doing something, I don't think the best way to do that, to get people to not consume something, is by making it illegal. Because it doesn't really address the problem at hand, which is a lack of responsibility. Because sure, you could, for instance, put a control group of people into a town, a small town, and make alcohol illegal. But that doesn't take away from their lack of responsibility, because they could just get into a car and drive a couple towns over and buy their booze. If alcohol was made illegal globally, sure, people would stop drinking it to some extent, but people would start making it. And I guarantee you, if all of a sudden, after a few years of alcohol being illegal, the government made it legal again, there would be hundreds of thousands of people driving to the store to get their booze to kill themselves slowly. Hell, I know I was one of these people. I loved drinking my booze. I was the worst type of alcoholic. I was either a complete love bug or I was a complete raging alcoholic, drunk, violent, angry, get in your face, foam in the mouth type of fool. And I am so thankful on a daily basis that I somehow managed, in my absolute folly, to not make a decision while I was drunk that got me locked up or hurt someone irreversibly. I laid my hands on people, I bruised people, I got into fights with people, I harmed myself. I'm not even going to get into the vast quantity of bad decisions that I made while I was drinking, especially drinking in this video. It's something that I'll talk about in the near future. It feels good to let go of these things by talking about them and trying to get you, the viewer, to be motivated not to make the same decisions that I've made, because let me tell you, it's a very slippery slope. There's so much power in that quote. My mom used to tell me, you need to stop drinking. You're going down a slippery slope. And it was slippery. I would drink so much booze. It got to a point where I was drinking a fifth of vodka in like a 3-hour period or less. That may not seem like a lot, but I was hardly eating at the time. I was very skinny, malnourished. I didn't eat enough when I was drinking alcohol. What was important to me was booze. Booze was like my fuel. I needed it. I had to have it. And I would put off very important things that needed to be done. I let go of my responsibilities. I wouldn't even address the important things in my life, my responsibilities, until I knew I had booze. I used to, at my lowest point, I had hardly any money, and I would just steal money from people to get alcohol. I would, they can't even, there was a point, ladies and gentlemen, where I had a piggy bank, and it had quite a bit of quarters in it. So I spent all those quarters, 16 quarters, $4 could get me a little bottle of vodka in a plastic bottle. But it got to a point where those quarters were diminished, so that I went to the dimes. Then once the dimes were diminished, I went to the nickels. Then I went to pennies. There was a period, I shit you not, where I went into a liquor store and bought a fifth of vodka, which was like $8 with pennies. At that point, the person that's selling you the booze knows that you have a severe alcohol problem. You bought alcohol with pennies, 800 pennies, 850 pennies, or whatever the hell it was. Absolutely ridiculous. Let me just make sure we're still recording here, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my goodness. Man. There was something I wanted to say that I forgot to say. What the hell? There was a subject I wanted to bring up. Maybe it'll come back to me. I don't know. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. It was relative to alcoholism and addiction in general. I was drinking, then it got to a point where I was drinking 2/5 pretty much every night, give or take. It got to a point where I was drinking at least a fifth. I would wake up at 3 a.m, 4 a.m. My bottle would be right next to me. I would chug a few chugs and go right back to bed. I drank so much vodka where the taste didn't affect me at all. I knew how to hold my breath in this specific way and hold it after I took my last sip and wait a prolonged period, so that when I started breathing again, I wouldn't taste the booze. There'd be just the lightest, faintest taste of alcohol on my tongue. I was a professional alcoholic. Then it got to a point where I was drinking a few handles of vodka every week, mixed with beer and wine. There was one night, ladies and gentlemen, one of my first relapses, I shit you not, where I drank, I think it was 11 bottles of wine in one evening. A lot of people have a hard time believing that, but I have no intention to lie on lying to you. I have witnesses to this as well. I drank over 10 bottles of wine in less than like 6 hours, I think. Earlier in that day, I was drinking vodka, and it was the second day into a binge. So, holy shit. And the weirdest thing about that, kind of off subject, is after I drank that much wine, I woke up I never threw up. I was pretty much coherent the whole time. And I woke up completely lucid. I didn't remember what happened, but I had no hangover. My mind was super clear. It was the weirdest thing. I've gone on such a weird up and down roller coaster with booze. Drug addiction as well, kind of before I became an alcoholic, but I was never really into drugs all that much. I have some incredibly strange stories with the supernatural to tell you of things that happened. For instance, when I went to get drugs, I told you guys a story in the past about how on a summer day, a friend of mine and I went to get something we weren't supposed to be buying. And in the middle of this cloudless blue sky, once I parked at this particular individual's house to buy this substance I wasn't supposed to be buying, in a 15-foot, give or take, circle around my car and not outside the circle, a hailstorm came down on my vehicle for a prolonged period. And my friend and I were just like, what the hell is going on here? We both knew what was going on. God was talking to us. The angels were talking to us. We weren't supposed to be there. I got out of my car when it stopped hailing, and there was pretty much a perfect circle around my vehicle. Nowhere else in that entire area did it hail other than my vehicle. And the whole time the hail was beating down on my car, there was this ominous feeling of dread and impending doom. So, ladies and gentlemen, whether you want to believe it or not, there is a higher power. There is There are angels out there watching over your monkey ass while you metaphorically, stumble around this dimension in your haze, in your drunken haze, your drug-addled haze. It's time to wake up. My whole channel is designed as a tool so that hopefully you, the viewer, can find this channel at exactly the right time and derive benefit from it. I hope that if you're an addict, you've watched this video up until this point. Go into my archive and look at my alcoholism playlist. I'm actually about to update that because I haven't updated it in a while. But I have hours and hours and hours of content here on this channel designed to try to help you get some sense into your cabeza and get some sense into your heart and walk the opposite direction. Addictions will kill you, ladies and gentlemen. And sure, you may be young. Sure, you may just be getting into addiction. Maybe you've only been drinking for a year or so, but you're not immune, ladies and gentlemen. Alcohol, the thing about alcohol especially, and opiates as well, but alcohol, you could be completely fine on Tuesday and locked up on Wednesday. And the sad thing is you're going to spend the rest of your life in jail reflecting on the fact that chances are the decisions that you made that got you locked up, for instance, you would have never made when you were sober. So now you're basically being punished for a crime that you would have never committed while you were in a clean state of mind. So now you have to live with the fact that basically you invoked a demon into your system that took over your body and your mind. You made bad decisions with that demon, and now you're locked up for the rest of your life. Or maybe you hurt someone. Maybe you did something that you regret for the rest of your life. I don't want to see that happen to you. Listen to my words as I speak to you. Look directly into my eyes right now, ladies and gentlemen. You have the potential to change. You need to seek professional medical attention if you are an addict. You need to after this video, I hope that you can, or, pause after I say the next sentence. If you're an alcoholic, ladies and gentlemen, if you've been an alcoholic for a long period and you know that the withdrawals are going to be dangerous, regardless of how much you drink, you need to call and make an appointment with a professional medical specialist that specializes in addiction recovery. Western medicine has some beautiful tools to help you safely get off of booze, because let's face it, alcohol is one of the most dangerous things to detox from. It's one of the most dangerous things to withdraw from. And this is why I always have recommended that people seek professional medical attention when it comes to addiction recovery, regardless of whether it's alcohol, drugs, you name it. But alcohol needs to be approached gingerly and carefully, because you can't just up and quit, especially if you drink a lot, because it can be very, very dangerous. And I don't want to see you have to go through horrible withdrawals like I did. A lot of the most intense and terrifying experiences, the near-death experiences, especially with, alcoholism, can largely be avoided if you go and you detox in a medically supervised, area where they can give you specific pharmaceutical drugs that'll help keep your heart rate balanced, keep your mind balanced. Because let me tell you, authentic alcohol withdrawals, alcohol-induced hallucinations, these can be some of the most terrifying things that you'll ever go through. The tactile hallucinations, the auditory hallucinations, the visual hallucinations, all combined with the delirium that is encumbered in the withdrawal experience if you're a heavy drinker. Oftentimes you'll hear you'll hear voices, you'll see actual dead spirits. Oftentimes people will see bugs, people will see demonic faces. For me personally, I felt like I was being dragged into the pits of hell. I felt like I was actually dying, and this went on for over 12 hours. It's highly ungrounding to the sane mind. It took me a long time to recover from those experiences. Oftentimes people ask me, people who have seen my longer videos on my, spiritual experiences coming off of alcohol and how I was basically drugged into the pits of hell, people ask me, how long did it take to recover from that? It took about a year, ladies and gentlemen, or more. This is why, if you're an alcoholic, you need to seek professional medical attention, because you can avoid a lot of the negative repercussions from quitting alcohol if you get help. And if you don't get help, depending on how much you drink, you might not make it through it. I love you. I want to see you live. I want to see you turn your life around. I believe in you. But you need to care enough about yourself to go through the proper channels so that you can make it through this experience safely. You're going to minimize your risks massively. I would say by more than 90% if you actually detox under the supervision of a professional medical specialist, whatever the hell you call it, excuse me. So, I mentioned tactile hallucinations in this video and my other videos, and I've explained what those are in my other videos, but if you haven't seen those, please do go watch those videos. But a tactile hallucination, ladies and gentlemen, these are when you feel things that aren't actually there. So for me, I saw spirits. That's a visual hallucination. I had auditory hallucinations of those actual spirits. I could hear them. I could hear the entity that was speaking to me, the entities plural. And on top of that, I could feel them touching me. And at one point, in the midst of my first withdrawal, there was a group of demonic, children, like these carnival children that were part human, part demon. They were surrounding me, talking back and forth about me from across the room. I hope that makes sense. So let me see if I'm still recording. So if this was me laying on the bed withdrawing, there was a circle around me of entities, and they were yelling at each other back and forth and talking about what they were going to do with my soul once it got to hell. They talked about how I had so much potential and I wasted it, and that their plan had basically succeeded. They loved the fact that I was going through these experiences. Now, whether or not these were actually real or not doesn't matter, because while I was experiencing it, it was very real. There was no mistaking the fact that these things were real while I was in that experience, and they forever have changed me. And I don't know if maybe they were real entities, or maybe it was some hyper advanced aspect of my consciousness putting me through some horrifying experience so that I could be scared into submission so that I would never use alcohol again. I'm not 100% sure, ladies and gentlemen. All I know is that looking back at those experiences now, I'm glad that they happened, because it did scare the living shit out of me. Scared the living shit out of me. I wish I had the resources to recreate what I went through for you guys with some type of computer program or whatnot. I wish I had the resources and the know-how to do that, because it's horrible. The whole time, for me personally, I was having these hallucinations. When I would close my eyes, see, that's the thing. When I would close my eyes, I would try to close my eyes to just blot out the whole experience. It would make the hallucinations even worse. Closed eye visuals, closed eye hallucinations are very common with extreme alcohol hallucinosis, extreme alcohol withdrawals. So it's you're trying to do everything you can to just stop all the noise, stop all the static of the experience. And every time, for instance, you cover your ears to stop hearing the hallucinations and you hear them even stronger, you try closing your eyes to stop the hallucinations, and all of a sudden there's just a visual vista of multiple things, geometries moving behind your eyelids, spirits, you name it, hieroglyphics I was seeing these three-dimensional pyramids spinning at light speed. It was horrible. You try wrapping yourself up into a blanket to stop the tactile hallucinations, the sense of feeling like you're being touched by things, and it makes it worse, and you start sweating. I was sweating profusely. My heart rate was pounding so loud that it terrified my partner at the time. You could see my shirt jumping. My heartbeat was beating so hard. I thought I was having a prolonged heart attack. Who the hell knows? Maybe I was. Now, I didn't seek help during this withdrawal, but after the experience tapered off, I went insane after that for an amount of time, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to lie. These experiences terrified the hell out of me, and I eventually went and I saw a doctor, and that helped so much. So anyways, ladies and gentlemen, it is 10 a.m. Virginia time. I haven't slept worth a damn for about 2 weeks now. Maybe we'll talk about why in just a few. So I'm doing my best to make this video sound coherent and whatnot from a state of not being rested at all, but it's whatever. People ask me often, Brandon, can you please make a video about the recovery process and what you did to recover from your experiences with alcoholism? Ladies and gentlemen, the first step of recovery, and this is the one thing that people never want to hear, is to seek professional advice, to go see a doctor, to go see a specialist. You may not want to do this, ladies and gentlemen, but I want you to, and I can guarantee that after you do it, you are going to feel so liberated and so uplifted once you hear the resources that these professionals have to offer you. You're going to feel so much better. You're going to have so much more clarity. You're going to have so much more hope and faith in yourself. You need to do it. Stop asking me to give you some magic formula that's just consisting of natural things, ladies and gentlemen. The foundation of addiction recovery when you are coming off of toxic substances that can kill you is to seek professional attention, to go to a doctor. They can offer you things that I cannot. I'm trying to be like a lighthouse that's beaming the light out in the midst of you being in the chaotic oceans of addiction. I want my message to resonate with your heart chakra. I want it to get past I want it to just get in past the barriers of your mind and get into your heart. I want to uplift you and I want to steer you in the right direction, but I'm not going to get on here and just give you some natural formula to try to follow to get off of your addictions. You need to seek doctors. And I know many of you guys probably don't want to hear that, but I don't give a shit. I love you and I care about you and I want to see you live. And don't be embarrassed to call. Don't be embarrassed to go see a doctor. They deal with people that are going through addiction often. They sympathize with it. They want to help you. That's why they work in these jobs. It's because they care. I'm not trying to sound like a smartass and I'm not trying to be sarcastic. Excuse me. I just don't understand why so many people neglect this most crucial step. And I did at first as well, but you know what? I caught on quick. The doctor that I went to see was so gentle and she was so sweet. And she provided me with a message that was so powerful because, when I was going through withdrawals and, when I went through alcohol depersonalization, and I'll talk about that in just a minute, I would go on Google and self-diagnose myself, and everything I read for the most part was really negative. I'm probably not going to, I self-diagnosed myself into complete submission where I made my mind so much more fearful than it had to be. I was just over encumbered with fear. But when I went to see that doctor and she basically told me her professional medical opinion, it was so much more uplifting, and it was so powerful to probably my subconscious, I would say, because it was someone who was a professional telling me that, hey, you're going to be okay. It's all right. Stop self-diagnosing yourself. It felt it was so uplifting. It felt like I let go of an anchor to hear that from a doctor, because at that point I went in thinking I was going to die. I didn't think I was going to make it through these experiences. So now I just mentioned alcohol depersonalization, and what that is, ladies and gentlemen, is it's when you basically go through withdrawals, or when you stop drinking and you don't feel like yourself. You feel like your body and your mind are basically not connected anymore. You don't feel like the old you. You may hear things, you may feel things, you may sense things that aren't there. You feel psychotic. Now, I can say that this goes away, but it takes time. This is where I can give you some options from a naturalistic perspective. There's herbs you can take. There are certain meditations that you can do to help your mind and your body fuse back together again. Oftentimes people experience alcohol-induced depersonalization, and it's also kind of related to something known as derealization, because they've used something they've used the poison for so long to cope with reality. When you take that out of the equation, you have like a whiplash effect, and you're left in a sober state where you normally would have had something very strong to numb yourself, which, for instance, alcohol. When you stop using that numbing agent, it makes reality seem much more intense. And because you're in such a fragile state of mind, because you don't have your numbing agent, you're in this very vulnerable, tender place. And I sympathize with that. That's when you need to focus on strengthening yourself, strengthening your spirit. I recommend grounding yourself to the earth, walking barefoot on the earth for 15 minutes a day minimum. I would go outside when I was recovering, and I would just dig a little hole, put my feet into it on a lawn chair, and sit back and do deep breathing. When you stand barefoot on the earth, ladies and gentlemen, you receive negatively charged electrons from the earth. It makes you feel good. It reduces inflammation. It's very beneficial. It's symbolic as well because you're trying to ground yourself. Again, you're trying to recover a state of feeling grounded. So that's one thing I do recommend. I'm not going to get into all the things I recommend for recovery, ladies and gentlemen, in this video. I'm just not. I'll touch upon that. I'll make an isolated video that isn't so long in the near future, and I'll touch upon some of the things that I used to get myself out of alcohol-induced, basically psychosis, ladies and gentlemen. I can call it alcohol, induced depersonalization and derealization, but for me personally, it was just psychosis. It was temporary psychosis that was induced from very traumatic experience that were a byproduct of letting go of booze immediately and going cold turkey. It was one of the worst decisions of my life to just up and stop drinking the way I did because I was such an consistent alcoholic. I wish I would have gone before I went through the withdrawals and saw a doctor. So I don't want to see you go through this experience. I want to see you make it through in one piece, and I believe in you. But wow. This message, my heart goes out to all the people who have been affected by drunk driving. My heart goes out to all the people who have been affected by, family members losing, their children because they got too drunk at a party, or they crashed their vehicle, or they killed someone. My heart goes out to all the families, all the little children who have lost their parents to booze and alcohol, or booze and drugs. I want to create a support system, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'm going to be doing a lot of expansion with my channel in relation to addiction. In the future, I'm going to try to make a particular project for recovery. I'm not going to talk about that right now. I just wanted to throw that out there. I want to create an organization. This camera makes me look like a ghost. Anyways, you guys, I want to start tapering down on this one. I've got a lot of shit I need to get done today. I want to see you thrive. I want to see you make it through. I want to see you get sober, because let me tell you, sobriety is a natural high that far supersedes the false high of drugs and alcohol. When you choose to stay sober, when you choose to get sober, folks, and you stay sober, eventually your body and your mind start creating natural feel-good chemicals, and your body and your mind naturally uplift themselves, and you feel better than you ever did with alcohol and drugs, because they do nothing but temporarily bring you up to just bring you down. Staying sober constantly just keeps elevating you. It keeps bringing you up and up and up and up and up. And life just keeps getting better and better and better and better, the way it was designed to be. Life is supposed to be an enjoyable experience. It's supposed to be an ever-evolving, expansive experience, not a constricting and addicted experience. Let go of the booze, ladies and gentlemen. Let go of the drugs. Let go of the stupid goddamn cigarettes that you're spending so much money on. I can't stand cigarettes. I can't stand the smell of them. I'm gonna do some more tobacco videos here in the near future, but I need to get going, you guys. Again, I wish I could go a little bit longer, but I'm strapped for time right now. I love you. I believe in you. Expect more content on alcoholism and addiction recovery very shortly, and keep an eye out for that new project. And until next time, peace be with you all.